So in this example, we're looking at some of the things we can do with linear gradients and styling. So we're going to be looking at how we can just do a plain linear gradient with multiple colors, how we can create an element that's got the two different linear gradients. We can also do an example where we're using the turn for the linear gradient. So it's angling the gradient angle from one color to the other. And then just different ways where we can do it. So we can do to left, to right. We can also set the degrees that we're angling and moving the linear gradients. And we can apply multiple colors. We can set the starting point and the blending points for the colors. We can set where they start and where they end with the blending. So all of these examples are going to be covered in this lesson. Created an HTML file, and I'll create a few elements that will apply some properties to it. So this is going to be the example 1, and then we'll have 3 different examples of applying gradient to the elements. And I'll keep them all with the class of output so that we can apply some sizing to those elements. And that's going to be all done with styling. I'm going to just do the styling directly within the HTML page, within the style tags. So make a selection of the element with a class of output, and let's apply some properties to the output. So setting a height of 100 pixels. Let's also do a border, 1 pic, solid black border, so we can distinguish between the different boxes. I'll add in a margin so that they're not right next to each other. So this can just be a margin top, and I'll set up a margin for 30 pixels. So that way we've got some spacing between each one of the elements. And now we want to select the elements individually, and we're going to apply some gradient, some background gradient colors to it. So selecting the page element that we want to work with, using the first one where we've got the class of example 1, using the background image. And let's set a linear gradient. And within the linear gradient, we can add in the colors that we want to use for the linear gradient. So let's set those colors, and we'll do yellow and blue. And save that. So that gives us this type of effect. I'm also going to update the word wrap so we can see all of the content within the one statement. We can also apply multiple colors within the same element, and we can also even add in values here. So that will just add to the number of values that we have. Let's select example number 2. And within this example, we want to set multiple gradient colors within the one shape. So we'll just do a 50-50. So let's select the width of that and do a 25%. And then again, the background image, and set the linear gradient, and we'll do blue and red. So that essentially gives us a 25% blue and red. So we're not taking up the full element. If you want to have 2 colors in the element, so let's set this to be 100%, so going all the way across. And we'll also, within the example 2, we're going to set using after as a way to apply a second value within that same element and set a different gradient color. So for this one, we'll set in a gradient color. And how about we do green and yellow? And this one should actually be example 2. So afterwards, we're going to do the green and yellow. So let's apply some more properties into it. Set the content. So we don't have any content. We're just going to keep it blank as content. Setting a width for how much width we want for the after element. And then also the position. Let's set the position to be absolute. And we need to also set the height to be 100 pixels. So that will give us this type of effect where we've got partly is going to be this first part is going to be the green and yellow, and then the second part is going to be the blue and the red. So if you want to reverse order those, the easiest way to do is just to swap out the colors there for the linear colors, as right now it's going to be, this is going to be 100% across, and what's happening with the example 2, because we're positioning it as absolute, so essentially it's just covering over top of that. So that's going to give us this type of effect where we've got the two colors within the same element. And let's do one more example where we've got another example of a linear effect for the linear gradient. So if we want the gradient to be going horizontally, we can change the direction for the linear gradient. So it's again within the background image, but we're going to be applying a property, and that's going to be to turn it. So turning it and rotating that. And we're going to set that into example number 3. And that needs to be comma separated. That's why that didn't show up. So that gives us the gradient going this way across. Let's do a few more examples. So set up one for example 4. And we'll just copy that. And we'll make adjustments to how we're positioning it. So we can position it to the left as well. So that's another option that we can have as a property, to left. And essentially that will give us a reverse order of the one that we had above. I'm going to shrink down the height of the output elements, and we'll also shrink down the margin that we have between them. And that means that we also need to shrink down the size of this one here that we had after, so that it still fits in properly. Let's do a few more examples where we've got example number 5, where we can use the degrees for the tiled. So if we want it to be coming in at 45 degrees, so instead of to left, we can say 45 degrees. And just comma separate them out. And so this gives you that type of effect. And let's do another example as well. So for example 6, we can customize the gradient by selecting the length and the percentage. So instead of having them overlay each other, we can specify how far we want to go with the particular color. So we can say red, and this can be 0%, and then blue can be 25%. And let's set this to green. So maybe we want to do 50% for green. So that provides us this type of effect. And then let's do one last one where we'll do yellow, and this can be the full rest of the remaining 100%. And if we want to rotate this, we can rotate as well to do 45 degrees. So that will give us this type of effect where it's starting one and going gradienting across all the other ones. Let's add in another example of the gradient that we can do. So setting this as example 7. And this time what we'll do is we'll set the colors, and we'll set a percentage going across. So we can set red to 50%. And then we'll just set blue as the remainder. I'll see how that looks. So now we've got the red is 50%, so up to 50. And then after the 50%, it's blending. We've got 90 or 45 degrees. Let's set it to 90 degrees. So that's going to give us a complete to the right. You can also do multiple position stops so that we're not blending the colors, but we get more of this type of effect. So if you want to create more of a kind of a rainbow type effect across without the colors blending, but just have the distinct colors within that same element, you can do it this way, where we're going to set it. So we'll set it to right, and then comma separate out the colors. So starting with blue, and blue can be all the way up to 20%. And then the next color can be yellow, and yellow can start at 20% and go to 40%. And just save that. And let's do another one. We'll do pink. So pink would start at 40% and go to 60%. So that gives us this. So it's going to automatically pull the pink all the way through to the end, even though that we specified 60%, because there's no other specified color for the rest of it. So the remainder automatically gets updated to 100%. So let's add in a few other ones. So do a purple. So that's starting at 60% and ending at 80%. And let's add in the last one where we can do a green. And this is going to be starting at 80%. And we don't have to specify the 100% because by default it will take up the remaining amount of space. So these are some options that you can do with gradient. And of course you can try these out and try out the different values within the linear gradient to produce your own customized linear gradient.